Kia ora, ko whusmataho. Nā mai ki te whare, welcome to the House. It's not an easy thing being Parliament Speaker. The role walks a tightrope, attempting to maintain order in a chaotic House with more attention-seeking rascals than might stalk a teacher's nightmares. Speakers are often a lightning rod for opprobrium and discontent, and that's when they're doing it well. This week, the current Speaker, Jerry Brownlee, had a rough one. He made a series of novel, escalating rulings, with later rulings to justify the earlier ones, after arguably digging himself into a procedural hole. The whole affair was chocker with opportunities for context, so let's attempt some.
I will reiterate my call for the government to pick up our unlawful occupation of Palestine sanctions bill and to sanction Israel for its war crimes. If we find 6 of 68 government MPs with a spine, we can stand on the right side of history.
That is completely unacceptable to make that statement. Withdraw it and apologise.
No.
Then leave the House for the rest of the week.
Happily.
That was Chloe Swarbrick on Tuesday, during a debate on recognition of Palestine as a state. There were a few different elements to that, but let's take them in order.
With a spine.
On paper, the initial ruling from the Speaker was that it was unacceptable to hope to find 6 governing party MPs with a spine. Of course, it was the implication rather than the literal phrase that he found problematic. The Speaker later remembered it as spineless, and that's easier to say, so we'll go with that. There are many examples of MPs using similar language. Get a spine, have the guts, spineless, gutless, etc. They have come from both sides of the House, including some this Parliament. Sometimes those MPs are told off, sometimes no one notices. A Speaker has previously ruled that the term spineless is not disallowed at all. The Parliamentary Library collated recent examples that took up 17 pages, and it was not exhaustive. More usually, MPs get in trouble for implying dishonesty, lying, corruption, so on. I couldn't find anything in the Speaker's rulings about a lack of courage.
If we find 6 of 68 government MPs with a spine, we can stand on the right side of history.
Swarbrick was definitely taking a swipe, but she was also calling on governing party MPs to break ranks and vote for a Green Bill. It's an old and ineffectual political tactic, insulting your opponent in order to get them to join you. On the other hand, doing what she suggested would take an unusually strong spine. It is very rare to disobey your own party and vote with the opposition. Tariana Turia, Marilyn Waring, spines of steel.
Completely unacceptable to make that statement. Withdraw it and apologise.
No.
Then leave the House for the rest of the week.
Happily.
The current Speaker often reproves MPs and tells them not to repeat poor behaviour. Occasionally, he asks an MP to withdraw and apologise, which is parliamentary speak for taking back a remark. Refusing to do so, whatever the remark, is considered disorderly, and MPs are usually asked to leave the House if they refuse. But the Speaker got it wrong. Speakers can only kick out an MP for a single day. Trying for a week brought to mind the speech that former Speaker Adrian Rurewhai had given back in June, arguing against the Privileges Committee majority recommendation to impose unprecedented punishments on 3 Te Pāti Māori MPs.
The Privileges Committee of the future will have a new precedent, without a doubt. A new range of penalties against members who err in the future. You can guarantee that. Can also guarantee that government of the day in the future will feel very free to use those penalties to punish their opponents.
A little while later, and after Ricardo Menendez March had pointed out that the punishment itself was against the rules, the Speaker returned to explain or justify his mistake.
While it is true the member can only be removed from the House for the sitting day, the requirement for an apology does not lapse. And so if the member comes back in tomorrow and at the start of proceedings, after the prayer, takes a point of order and withdraws and apologises for the offensive remark, then that will be fine. If she doesn't, then she'll be leaving the House again. There is still an expectation that there will be a withdrawal and apology. And until there is one, then the status quo will continue.
Arguably, that explanation dug the hole a little bit deeper. Searching back over 22 years and nearly 600 MPs ejected from the chamber, Parliament's library couldn't find any examples of a speaker demanding an apology before a member could return. And there's a reason for that. Brownlee's ruling directly contradicts a current speaker's ruling, 21.1, which notes that where being ordered to leave is a result of a refusal to apologise, quote, the matter is at an end at that point, unquote. So Brownlee insisting on an apology is both new and also post hoc. On Wednesday, when the House began, it began like this.
I invite Chloe Swarbrick to withdraw and apologise for an offensive comment made in the House yesterday.
I won't be doing that, Mr. Speaker.
Then the member will leave the House.
At this point, Chris Hipkins tried to make a point of order, maybe to argue that the Speaker was misunderstanding the rules, but Brownlee did not allow him to. There was a very brief standoff when, presumably, Swarbrick made no move to exit, and that escalated things further.
The member refusing to leave the House. I therefore name Chloe Swarbrick. The question is that Chloe Swarbrick be named. Those in favour will say aye. Aye. The contrary? No. The ayes have it. The party vote is called for.
Naming is more serious than being kicked out. It includes the loss of a day's wages. Only the House can do it, not the Speaker, so there was a vote, with governing parties in favour and opposition against.
The member will leave the House.
The Speaker, Jerry Brownlee, is a former classroom teacher. Nodding back to the metaphor that we began with, it's not a great sign when a teacher ejects a student from class and the departing student is applauded on the way. Once she had departed, Chris Hipkins rose.
The standing orders are actually quite specific about a motion to suspend a member and the words that you need to use as Speaker in order to do so. You haven't, I believe, followed the requirements of the standing orders. So I wonder whether you could indicate to us what the motion that the House just voted on actually was, because if it was the one that you spoke, it doesn't have the effect that you think it does.
Which, if you'll pardon the reference, brings to mind Inigo Montoya in The Princess Bride telling Vizzini, I do not think it means what you think it means.
Well, in that case, I'll put it again.
And so there was another vote, with the same result. After which, Chris Hipkins rose again with a second point of order.
There has only been one instance that I can recall where a member was subsequently asked to withdraw a comment. That was the Right Honourable John Key when he said that members of the opposition supported rapists and murderers. At the time, he received a standing ovation from the National Party. That was a very controversial matter, and it was at least a week later that the Speaker asked him to withdraw and apologise in order to restore order in the House, which had been lost. The naming of a member for something they had done the day before is not something that has ever happened in the House before. I wonder whether you can reflect on what precedent or standing order you're relying on in asking Chloe Swarbrick to apologise for something the day before, because I did check the Speaker's rulings, and Jonathan Hunt back in 2001 specifically ruled that where a member refused to apologise and was ordered to leave the chamber by the Speaker, the matter is at an end at that point. So that has been the established practice of the House since 2001, and I wonder if you could indicate why that has changed.
Because the Standing Orders Committee met in July of 2017 and brought down a new Speaker's ruling, 23.1. I'd refer the member to that.
A new Speaker's ruling, 23.1, was added in 2017, but it doesn't seem entirely relevant. It allows a Speaker to deal with a situation retrospectively, but it has conditions. It is to be used only in serious cases, and only where not doing so would have a continued impact on the House's ability to conduct its business. Like, say, in the John Key situation, when the opposition was so offended at the Speaker's refusal to act that they all walked out. Hipkins made that point, but to no avail. That new Speaker's ruling had also not superseded the other completely different one, which is still in the current Speaker's rulings, and it clearly states that being sent out for not apologising is the end of the matter. Green musterer Ricardo Menendez-March also brought up the continued order aspect.
Is it your view that this meets that threshold?
If that's how the member wants to take it. But if you think about the comment that was made, 68 members of this House were accused of being spineless. There has never been a time when personal insults like that delivered inside a speech were accepted by this House, and I'm not about to start accepting it.
Setting a new standard like that is the Speaker's prerogative, but it's definitely not the first time that such a comment has been used. An unlikely ally rose to argue that the Speaker was wrong, again.
Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, I've been in this House when a Prime Minister accused the opposition of getting some guts. It was a serious accusation, nothing happened. And then worse, I heard the C word being accepted as language that can be used in this House. My personal view is that I don't agree with a thing that Chloe Swarbrick said at all, but this is a robust House where people have a right to express their views as passionate as they may within certain rules, but I do not think that eviction was warranted.
His confidence in that may have come from the fact that he himself has called both governments and government MPs spineless in both general debate and in question time, and without punishment. On the other hand, confusingly, his party had also just voted that Swarbrick be named. The Speaker rose with, I suppose, some context for his sudden shift in the interpretation of the rules.
There is considerable efforts being made at the moment across the parliamentary service to deal with what might be described as cyberbullying. And essentially what it comes down to is a question of what standard does the House want to set for itself?
Now that's fair enough. Speakers do maintain, quote, order and decorum in the House.
To include a gratuitous insult inside a speech. That is, in my opinion, from this point on, while I'm in the chair, unacceptable.
And if that ruling and warning had been made before he sanctioned Swarbrick, it may have made a lot more sense to everyone. The Speaker also noted that after the events, he'd talked with the cross-party business committee about it.
There's a point where things change, and I've reached the conclusion that we have so many threats and other stuff being directed at members of Parliament. If we don't change behaviour in here, nothing will change outside. So that is part of my rationale as well, and I made that very clear at the Business Committee yesterday.
Again, the intent was good, but again, it's a post hoc ruling and after the punishment. The debate with the Speaker on this matter continued for quite a while. We can't play it all, but before we go, Karen McAnulty wondered how a punishment could be escalated when the original punishment was itself outside the rules. Brownlee's response included, yes, you got it, yet another ruling.
But the fact that someone is asked to leave the House for a comment that has caused offence, and they do so for that day, does not mean that the offence has gone away. And that can be a new thing written into Speaker's rulings, if that's what it takes.
And that would indeed be a new thing. And again, it seems he wanted it to be retroactive. One more moment was maybe worthy of note. It was when Labour maverick Willie Jackson offered his own experience.
This is outrageous. I ask you with respect to reconsider this, given that you have kicked me out twice for calling another member a liar, and then I've been out of the House for less than 30 minutes, and you gave a direction that I could come back into the House. No apology required. So I did not apologise. I did not apologise, and I would never apologise.
We're not having...
Thank you very much. And I'd be happy to repeat what I said again, if you like, Mr Bishop.
Spare a thought for Parliament's clerks who will have the job of untangling all of those new rulings and deciding which to include in the official guide to Speaker's rulings, and which ones they supersede. Possibly, at the core of all of this was a confluence of factors. Palestine is a highly emotive issue and, as Brownlee termed it, a tragedy of humanity. It's also one where every MP, regardless of their current relative power, probably feels powerless to genuinely effect change. And that's quite a tinderbox to toss provocations into, particularly when, as the Speaker admitted, he was certainly personally affronted.
And I've got to be quite straight up with you. I personally found it deeply offensive.
You've been listening to The House. E te whakaranga koe ki te whare. This program is produced with funding from Parliament's Office of the Clerk. Mā te wā.